So, now we're getting onto this. So, Lewis gains on Max. We're on like lap whatever, like 30 something at this point. He attempts a pass round into turn 1. Obviously, Max weaves a bit on the straight, blocks the slipstream, which is allowed. He then defends the inside as expected.
No, Lewis but he doesn't weave too much this time. He just goes 1, 2, and...
He weaves a couple times, and Lewis is a fair distance behind him at this point, which means the weaving isn't, in his face and dangerous. It's it's a good distance. Lewis then tries to go around the outside. Max, once again, desperately brakes extremely late, not even trying to make the corner. Then loses it, because he gets a bit of oversteer mid-corner, sends himself off, cuts across the corner, and then drives off again. Lewis gets on the radio to complain about this, calling him dangerous. And so I feel like this is the moment Lewis kind of snapped, because you could hear him, obviously, and after the race, he did a couple interviews where he was a bit more, he had a couple more jabs at Max.
Yeah, he's one of the worst drivers I've ever driven with.
Oh, did he say that?
He said he's one of the most, I've driven with a lot of people, one of the most dangerous ones or something.
He said the rules don't apply to him. He said he's dangerous. He said things like that.
He compared him to one of the worst ones he's driven against. I remember.
I'm going to have to get this quote up. I might have to. Yeah. We'll see. But yeah, he said all of this. Max is then advised to give the position back. So what do you think of her? Do you want to run us through this, the big incident?
So I think just to kind of make a big point out of this, Max gave the position back quickly in Bahrain at the very beginning of the season, very first race. He gave it in a not so optimum position in the racetrack.
Yeah.
Ended up losing the race because he did not have, he gave it up in a bad position, and then Lewis was able to build enough of a gap to keep him behind him. So this time they were like, give the position strategically.
That is what was said on the,
And the whole point was he wanted to give it to him going into the DRS detection zone. So if he gives it,
last corner.
Yeah, if he gives it into that, he gets the DRS, and then essentially he can lap Lewis. Now, before I actually cover, there are two things I want to clarify. Masi told Red Bull to give the position back. He never contacted Mercedes. So Mercedes at this point don't know that Max is giving the position back. The team doesn't know. Lewis doesn't know.
Not even Mercedes.
No one knows. No one knows. He's only contacted Red Bull. So that's the first thing to clarify. And then the second thing is, if Max is giving back the position, this is why I'm kind of confused, to be honest. If you give him back the position, and this is what Felipe Massa was saying after the race when he was with Will, he's saying if you're going to give back that position, you want to get the DRS, wherever, go to the far right. Max did not go to the very far right. He says that if you're going to give back the position, you either go very far left or very far right. You make it extremely clear. You slow down and go to the very far right. Max slowed down, but Max was never at the very far right. He was quite centered. And then when Lewis got quite close, he moved across. You can see it a steering wheel. He moves across, and then according to the FIA, he brakes a bit more at that point. You can see it in the graph a bit. He applies more brake pressure at that point. They crash into each other, and then Max kind of just gives up and he just gaps him, so Lewis doesn't get the DRS into that corner. He builds enough of a gap. Lewis is 1.8 or 2 seconds behind him at that point. I think it's kind of Lewis didn't want to overtake him. Lewis could possibly have gone extremely to the inside and maybe overtaken him. But I think he was too scared because he's scared that Max would just cost him at the end. And perhaps break his front wing fully or whatever. So I think that's why he was too worried about going for it, because especially Max, if Max had, you see with that part of the track, it's narrow and it opens up, and
the barrier was coming
the barrier was coming across. You don't want to go into that part. So with everything, I don't think Max made it sufficiently clear in the sense that he did not and this is what Felipe kept saying, you did not go to the far right. If you're letting someone through, you go to the very edge and let them through. You don't go midway through the track, or you're not really at the far right, especially with the track being so narrow. Be I tried to give him.
Yeah, even considering the fact Max didn't know Lewis didn't know.
His idea of giving it back and then getting DRS and over crossing, I don't see it really an issue. That I think it's just being smart.
I'd say it's tactics, but
I don't see an issue.
I'd say overtaking him in the same corner, the thing he did the second time, I see an issue with that. because Lewis got a penalty for that in a 2008 Spa. I know this sounds like it was a very long time ago, but it's the last time this happened. They very clearly gave him a heavy penalty for this. They took him down from first to third because Kimi retired and he couldn't swap the position back. So they had to give him a big penalty. They gave him a massive one. I'm pretty sure it was like 25 seconds or something ridiculous. So it's a big penalty, it's a clear precedent. So the overtaking him into the same corner after he's given the position back, because we're talking about
this is not the same corner. That's the thing.
We're talking about a punishment.
Max would give it on the straight and then take it into the first corner.
If he did that, that's fair enough. That's cheeky, but that's fair.
Yeah,
like if
that's what Max did. He gave it back on the straight and then overtook in the first corner. So it's not really
that one. If he did that, yeah.
I thought it was incredible, like incredibly smart of him. Like I actually found that very funny.
But back to the main incident. So yeah, Lewis drives into the back of him. It's understandable why he was hesitant, but he could have really gone for it also. Like,
but I think that's the thing. If Max was behind him, Max would have gone for it. But I think the difference is Lewis is too cautious now.
He is very worried about retirement now, yeah. Because even into the next race, if they both retire, Max still wins.
No, it's not just that. Like, Max doesn't care. If he retires, if this is like, you saw Max, the amount of times he put himself in a position where he would have crashed, he would have retired.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And, like, he managed to come P2, which I think his driving yesterday was, like, actually really good. In terms of, like, the overtaking and stuff, like, and the defending. He defended really aggressively. You wouldn't tell, like, he's scared of losing the championship. Whereas Lewis has been like the whole season he's been so like the last time I've seen Lewis fight someone like the way Max is fighting was maybe like Nico in like 2016. After that he's had no one, so it's just been like it's okay if I'm cautious now, I'll just win the next few like 10 races and I win the championship.
I mean, even with Vettel they were a lot more fair with each other because they'd give each other, both of them, a lot more room.
But
with
Max,
this one, you can't afford to do that. Cause
exactly, but Max would have gone for it.
Max is not going to give you anything.
But Lewis is extremely cautious. That it's irritating to watch. Like, the first time I've seen him, like, not care and really go for it was Brazil. That's why I enjoyed I loved watching Brazil because he overtook everyone and he was, like, he didn't care, he was sending it, you know, like.
Yeah, but the problem with when Lewis sends it around the outside, he ends up losing some of his front wing.
No, but
it happened in Imola, it happened with
that's the thing with Max. Like I'm saying, he could have overtook him there, but Lewis has become so cautious of Max that he's too scared to do anything. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, but I say
he's so scared to do anything. Max doesn't have that. I think it's just because of like
Max the way he is.
That's the thing. Max thinks like I think probably the idea that I still have like 10, 15 more years to win like my championship. Lewis is thinking I need to win the 8 this year because I only have like say a year or 2 more. And you don't know with the new regulations, will I have a car to compete?
I'd say Lewis always sees the bigger picture in terms of championship, long run, all of this stuff.
No,
Max
but
is
like
just I need to win this race. Or even
so
if I don't
cautious.
win this race, I don't care.
But Lewis's attitude, Lewis had like the better car in perhaps some of the very few races at the beginning, and because he was too cautious. If not for Mercedes' change in luck, Lewis would have lost the championship. Just because he was cautious in the first few races where he had a more equal, for instance, car than like mid-season Red Bull were just smoking Mercedes. So at the beginning he had more of a chance of kind of, like with Imola, if he was a bit harsher into that corner, gave Max less space, Lewis would have won that race. But because of that, Lewis got damage and all of that. Do you get what I mean? It's because he was too cautious. I don't like that, basically. I'm not saying don't take safety into account, but like I'm saying Lewis has just become too cautious.
No, yeah, he does. I don't know. I think we're going to see more of this in Abu Dhabi as well. Yeah. Purely because of the fact that if... I'm not saying Max would try and crash him out, but Max in the back of his mind, if they both retire, who cares? Like what he said in Monza, like, oh, that's what you get when you don't leave the space. Like, he didn't care.
I don't want it to end like that.
No, that would be
just
a horrible
just
ending.
Purely because I want Max to like win on pace, you know, like because he's
whoever wins, you want to win them.
No, but Max is gonna win on pace because he's a much better driver.
So right. So before Max fans come in and compare this to Baku, I swear your face actually annoys me when you say that. So
Max is better than Lewis.
Max is, it's the smug face after. It's not even what you're saying. It's just your face, right? So. Just to confirm, this wasn't like Baku because it was proven afterwards, if we're comparing this to the brake testing, Lewis didn't actually brake test Vettel. He didn't
No, but
actually brake
Vettel
check
didn't
him.
get the
was the
penalty
thing.
because he smacked into Lewis. He got the penalty because he went on the outside and smacked into Lewis
Yeah,
sideways.
but I'm saying if Max fans want to compare this, what I would compare this to is Silverstone, because in Silverstone, both of them you could say were at fault. Lewis more at fault, which is why it was only 10 seconds, and then same with here. So as much as the penalties didn't affect anything in the end.